We're going live, Paula?
Yes. We're live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this first episode of Knowledge Plus, which is a program powered by ESLAW, and OCI is going to host this. The program will be held once every 2 weeks on every Friday, and it is a program of 4 program series is what we're bringing to you. And all of the topics are related to either dispensing or related to clinical aspects of dispensing, equipments for dispensing, and so on. So this is a series of talks. The first one is being held today. Of course, I'd like to thank ESLAW. Anant Lakshmi is representing ESLAW today. Thank you, Anant Lakshmi, for your support. And I think this is a unique initiative where we are thinking of, having such programs more and more in order to build the knowledge as well as upgrade the standard of dispensing as well as practitioners. I'll hand it over to Jayanta now, who's the chair of OCI, to say a few words and commence the Knowledge Plus program. You're muted, Jayanta. Jayanta, you're muted.
Sorry. Yes. Am I audible now? Yeah. Thank you, Lakshmi, and good afternoon to all everybody. This is the first series of program, which is the first day with ESLR, and I'm also extending my thanks to ESLR for supporting OCI to conduct this program. Hopefully, this program will benefit the practitioners, students who are watching. And thing is like that whenever we optometrist, we did not learn everything in our school days. So whatever we learned and skill ourselves from through so many continuing education programs supported by the corporate and our own initiative to do some seminars and all. So this is definitely another, I think, will be an interesting program. I hope so. So on behalf of OCI, I extend my thanks to ESLR and all the participants and also to all the panelists who will be speaking on this platform. And thanks to Lakshmi and Nilesh also for your contribution. And hopefully we'll be able to build a skilled manpower in the dispensing platform. Oh, thank you very much. So I think we should start the program. Ananta Lakshmi, thank you very much again.
Thanks, Jayanta.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jayanta. So today's program, Pancham is going to be the speaker. And now I'll hand it over to Nilesh, who's going to moderate the session. Nilesh Thitte is a consultant to industry as well. And he's also the executive manager for educational programs of IIFL. And he also has been involved in terms of dispensing as an educator during his times at Bharati Vidyapeeth. I also request all the participants to mute their mics and put off the video so that it helps in better quality of internet transmission. So over to you, Nilesh, to take over the program. And also you can introduce the panelists as well, Nilesh. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lakshmi. I think it's a wonderful initiative by OCI and ESLR. What happens in practice is something very, very important. And I think some of the things we learn as a part of continuing education. And it's best to learn from people who are involved in that, right? And that's exactly why our first speaker is Pancham. But before even getting into that, let me tell you, this particular topic is of interest to me also as an individual. Because I always think being into eye care, many a times, we talk a little bit too much about the technicalities of the product, the science of the product. and in the words that probably our patients, our customers, our consumers do not understand very well. So हम काफी बार, we are talking about the feature or the science of the product, but we don't exactly translate into how that particular feature or that science behind the product will help our end patients, end consumers, end customers. I think that is a missing link, and this is one of my favorite topics also in contact lenses as well as in ophthalmic lenses. And we picked this as the first topic. I just want to congratulate the entire team for picking this particular topic as a topic to discuss here with all the young optometrists and people in the eye care domain. Now, who better than Pancham Kulkarni? Pancham, apart from being a good friend and a colleague of mine, just to give you a quick introduction of Pancham, he's completed his bachelor's of optometry from the Elite School of Optometry. Then he went to the University of New South Wales, Australia, completed his master's. Currently, he has his own practice, Kulkarni Brothers Optician in Mumbai, and he's also an associate professor and faculty at Lotus College of Optometry. Pancham has a great deal of experience in fitting and dispensing contact lenses as well as ophthalmic lenses. And I think we are going to learn a lot from him today about how do we talk to our patients when it comes to ophthalmic lenses, right? That's something very interesting. I'm all ears, Pancham. We're going to be very, very attentive to you in next whatever half an hour or 40 minutes.
Meeting started.
Just want to inform everyone that at the end of Pancham's talk, we also have a small panel discussion, which will involve another giant in the field of optical and in the field of eye care, Snehal Turakia. Snehal needs no introduction. He is again a graduate from ESO and has been in optical and contact lens practice for years. He is representing Turakia Opticians from Chennai, and will involve Anant Lakshmi also, just to understand the other side, the industry side as well when it comes to ophthalmic lenses. Please tune in to us till the end of this, because at the end of the session we will have a survey and we will have an assessment. So if you want a certificate of attendance, you need to stay here until the end and complete the assessment. All right, then. I am sure all of you are excited and waiting for Pancham to begin. Pancham, over to you. All yours.
Thank you, Nilesh, for the introduction.
Yeah, it's perfect, Pancham. You can continue. Okay. Slide is perfect.
Okay. So my topic for today is, like you all know, customer communication, communicating product benefits and why it is important. Okay. So specifically, I'll be talking about ophthalmic lenses over here. Frames, I'll be not covering so much in detail, but I think the major challenge lies in upgrading the ophthalmic lens. So we'll cover more of that topic. And just to give you an idea where I work, this is a snapshot of my optical showroom. Now coming to the Indian market, currently it is valued at 7.4 USD billion, and dominantly it is the market is dominated by your spectacles, your frames and spectacle lenses. Then comes your sunglasses, and finally come your contact lenses. Okay, for the reasons we'll not discuss why contact lenses is less. And this is a analysis done by Deloitte, and what they say that by the year 2024 we'll come close to 13.6 billion. Now this forecast might not hold true because this was a 2017 study and then COVID hit us. So these projections might not hold true, but we have a long way to catch up because US is like 35 billion and we are just 1/3 of that, or even 1/4 of that. Sorry. So a long way for the Indian market yet to go. So how do you increase the walk-ins in your store? Okay, so the topic for today is customer communication. So if there's not going to be any walk-ins, how is the communication going to take place? So very important aspect, how to increase the walk-ins in your store. So these are the forms of advertising which I have tried in my practice. Okay, so some of them have benefited me, some of them have not benefited me. For example, something like a newspaper ad, classified brochures, television ad. I don't mean a national television ad, but a local cable ad. Social media ads, they have generally created a very low impact. Okay, apart from my friends and family giving me thumbs up, it's not like it is not translated into footfalls. So but you can still do them. Like social media ads are free, so you can always post them and advertise about your store. A few advertisements like billboards, though expensive, and I will say the cost to walk-in ratio was not that great, but still I put it in the medium impact because billboards are expensive, and run deal-breaking offers in stores. What I mean by that is, few years ago, one mobile store opened in my area, and he was selling these selfie sticks for like 25 rupees. So, that created quite a lot of buzz in the area. A lot of people say, oh, selfie stick 25 rupees. So now he started getting a lot of walk-ins. So I thought, why not run a similar exercise in my store? So I started selling sunglasses and one-day color lenses, not at 25 rupees, but at wafer-thin margins. And somewhat it helped me get new walk-ins. I mean, people who never visited my store started coming in and inquiring. So at least, I was able to get them inside my store. And another way of advertisement is newspaper article, magazine article, where a journalist from a newspaper comes and she writes good things about your store, the facilities what are available in the store. And that also helped me get clients as far as the Mumbai suburbs. They came to me, they read the article in the local newspaper, they came to me. So that helped me. Telephone SMS reminders a good way. Running eye screening camps. Now we used to hold these camps every year, where we used to go to schools, and we used to screen the school children, and then we used to give a visiting card, and this also helped me. But there's a lot of hard work. If you have a good team, I mean, this works really well. But the last exercise is the best I thought for my practice: co-management with your GP or ophthalm. So if you have any cataract glaucoma patients, you can refer to the ophthalm, and the ophthalm in return, he sends you his patients for spectacle lenses. So it's a win-win situation for both, and I think that's the best way. I mean, it helped really my practice, the co-management part. Okay, so decide what drives your store sales. Okay, now some stores in some upmarket areas or even in malls, their way of performing is selling more of expensive frame brands. Certain stores, they think giving maximum discount is the best way forward. So based on my experience, I feel expensive frame brands and maximum discounting leads to low impact. I'll tell you the reasons for that. According to me, superior clinical examination, quality service, large variety of frame collection, that's the way forward. And that is helping my shop my shop is almost like 75, 80 years old now. So this has helped me survive for so long. And some of you might argue on the first point, they say, oh, expensive frame brands, what is this guy talking? That leads to increase in footfalls. Now, let me share you a small study. This was a study done where there are two sets of brands over here. I'll not go into too much detail of the study. The left side brands were not doing so well. The right side brands were doing extremely well. In fact, the owner of Zara is considered one of the top 10 richest person in the world. So business analysts were trying to find out what is going wrong in this left-hand sided brands. So what they found out was all these brands were heavily dependent on other brands, like something like a Shoppers Stop or Pantaloons. Well, they're selling Louis Philippe or a Tommy Hilfiger, Van Heusen. So they didn't have their in-house brands. So what was happening over here? These brands were available everywhere. They were available online. They are available in malls, rival shops, the airports. They are available everywhere. So there's no customer loyalty over here. Okay. Whereas the brands on the right, like something like a Zara, Westside, H&M, they only stock their own brands. So so the customer is not brand loyal. What was happening over here on the right side, that the customer was store loyal and not brand loyal. What is happening on the left hand side? So I'm not against selling these brands of frames. Of course, you must sell the frame brands also. But at the end of the day, if you look at your sales report and you think the frame brands are basically dominating your sales, then just rethink about your business, because it's not sustainable according to business analysts. So that is why I've written the first point over here. Important to build your in-house frame brands. Okay. And another point over here I've written is very important, must be able to justify the frame price displayed to the customer. Okay. Now Mumbai is a wholesale hub. Plus you have a big gray market area where Chinese goods are imported in Mumbai. So a lot of customers walk in and they say, sir, this is 150, 200 frame. Your store frames are costing 1,500, 2,000. So, why your frames are so expensive. So you cannot just let go by saying, ours is a branded frame and, it's a good quality frame. All these are very standard answers and no, they don't work. You have to justify the price. Like, for example, you can say, this is a titanium frame or it's an acetate frame, optile frame. These are very expensive materials. The luster lasts long. They are hypoallergenic. They don't cause skin allergies. And also you can say a few things like, even simple things like spring attachment or a steel wire. Okay. So spring attachment is good for shock absorption. Your steel wire, gives sturdiness to the frame, good for over the year fitting. All these features are missing in those 150, 200 frames, which are just nothing but a cheap plastic frame. Okay. So be it an ophthalmic lens or a frame, just you should be able to justify the price of your frame. Generally, what I tell my staff also, have a good ratio when you sell a spectacle. Have a good ratio of lens cost and frame cost. It should not be like, frame is costing 10,000 and the lens is just costing 1,000. Okay, because coming to the same reason again, if you're selling more of luxury brands, there's no customer loyalty towards your store. And even a research, the link has been put up over here, the Grandview research, even what they have said, customers that are most satisfied with visual needs create a loyal customer base than customers who invest more in buying frames. Okay, so if you're just going to only concentrate on selling high-end frames, loyalty is not going to be there. And if you're going to satisfy them visually, like in case of a progressive lens, if you're going to give a excellent wide viewing angle progressive lens, they're going to be satisfied, and the loyalty towards your store, the probability of the loyalty towards your store is going to increase more than selling an expensive frame. Again, another point over here is, sorry, is the title seen of the title of the slide?
Yeah, Pancham, it's seen.
Yeah,
Okay.
very well.
Okay.
Very well.
Okay, so another point over here is selling expensive lenses is more profitable than selling expensive frames. I'll explain you why. Now, all these luxury brand frames, they have this minimum stock policy. You cannot say, I just want 2-3 frames. They don't want that because they don't want to dilute the brand. They make you buy 15-20 frames. Then the margin on these frames is not that great. I'll not say it's wow, but just 2x. And you don't get your MRP price because the customers knows that the discounting is there on such products. So it is inevitable, the discounting part. So you end up selling 70 to 80% of the frames. So suppose you have 10 frames, you end up selling 7 to 8 frames. Remainder becomes dead stock, and the old stock deteriorates over time, and the styles and trends also keep changing. And these dead stock frames basically eat into your profits. Okay, so you think, yes, you have made a good sale, you're selling 40,000, 50,000 frames, but are you selling the whole stock? Because I don't think there's any store without any dead stock. All stores have dead stock. Okay, so this dead stock basically eats into your profits. So why spectacle lens is more profitable? Because gone are those days where spectacle lenses were not costing more than 5,000, 6,000 rupees. Nowadays you have spectacle lenses as expensive as 1 lakh a pair. Your high index progressive customized lenses with a transition photochromatic lens cost more than for 1 lakh, I'll say. And they are ordered as per need, so there's no dead stock. You get the order, you place the order, and immediately the customer pays you, and you have cash in your bank. Margins also excellent, 2.5 to 3x more than your frames. And the MNCs also, I must commend them for excellent service they're giving. Companies like SLR, Nikon, Hoya, whenever you run into any troubleshooting problem, they send their Optom, a team of Optoms, and their Optom looks into it, he troubleshoots it, and if need be, they even replace the lens. So excellent service provided by the MNCs also. So now jumping to the main topic, how to upgrade your customers. So there's no one formula. Okay, so if I tell you this formula and you will upgrade your customers. So every client is different, his needs are different. So I have just discussed about some general strategies which you can apply to all these customers, and hopefully you will make a good sale. Okay, so you encounter 2 types of customers. Both these customers have their own disadvantages and advantages. Like the first time spectacle wearer, first time a person gets spectacles, he's a bit disappointed. He doesn't know if he's going to wear spectacles throughout the day, so he doesn't want to spend too much on the spectacle. On the advantage side part, sometimes the first time customer feels concerned. Oh, he's the eye specialist and he's saying that I need to wear my specs all the time, so give me something that is best for my eyes. So this customer has his own pros and cons. Second set of customer is already existing customer, so he's already wearing a progressive lens or a good quality coating lens. So you can identify his lens through the logo, and this helps create a base price. So if he's wearing a particular XYZ brand and a particular variant, you have to upgrade beyond that. You cannot go down unless the customer says he doesn't want to spend so much. So that helps create a base price. But on the disadvantage side of this customer is basically, they say, it's difficult because sometimes it becomes difficult to upgrade. They say what they're wearing is fine. Why do you want to upgrade? Okay, so then that convincing part becomes a bit more difficult. But personally, I like the second customer because less of share time and less of explanation needed compared to the first customer. Okay, so what are the factors that influence lens selection? Age, if it's a presbyope, then progressive. If it's a young kid, then polycarbonate. for safety purpose. Your work atmosphere, your indoor requirements, computer user, tailors, cooking, then you need a progressive lens or a strong at bifocal, probably. Outdoor activities like sports, fieldwork related jobs, then your photochromatic comes into play, or your polycarbonate lens for your sports outings. Based on refractive error, higher the refractive error, you need your high index lenses, your aspheric lenses. And also based on frame selected, I mean, if you have a rimless frame, then the Trivex or the polycarbonate will be an ideal choice. Now, you all know what are the spectacle lens options. I'll not go in detail over here. Like for example, designs are your progressive bifocal single vision. Nowadays, you have this anti-fatigue design lens also, where you have that power booster in the lower segment, especially useful for your pre-presbyopes, and basically helps you relax the accommodation. That's what the science behind it is. And your office lenses also. That's something new which has come in the last 5-6 years. Lens materials you all know, refractive indexes you all know. You know what's the aspheric, dual aspheric. I'm not getting into technical details. Coating, something new which has come out is your blue control. We'll speak about that in the upcoming slides. Sun protection, photochromatic, polarized, tinted. Okay, this point is very important. Just like your frames, you must be able to justify higher cost of branded lenses. Now, let me give you an example of this. Let's talk about a generic photochromatic lens and a branded photochromatic lens. Okay, so the generic one just costs you around 2,000, 2,500, while a branded lens, let's take Transition for example, the Sigma Generation 8 costs somewhere around 10,000 mark. So most of the time the customer definitely will ask you, why is this particular brand so expensive? And you will say, sir, this is a branded lens and it has quicker fading and darkening cycle. That's it. That's the explanation only we give. And the customer thinks, oh, just for that 1 minute extra, fading darkening cycle, should I spend 10,000? So, you most of the time you don't end up making a sale. So the correct way of explanation over here would be, what you can say. So the branded lens will turn dark even if there's no direct UV light. For example, if you're driving and there's no UV light on your face, still the lens will manage to turn dark. Whereas in your generic lens, only if it's exposed to direct sunlight, it's going to turn dark. Okay, that's a huge difference. And you can also say, yes, there's going to be quicker fading and darkening cycle. Again, the branded ones are available in various colors. So if you tell them or discuss all these points to them, you'll end up with a sale. But a lot of the time, the sales staff also tells me, sir, despite telling all this, we don't manage to make a sale. But you have to keep trying, right? I mean, if you're not going to show them this branded lens, there's never going to a sale going to be happen. There's never a customer is going to walk in and say, I want this branded photochromatic lens. You have to keep trying. Even if 25-30% is a hit ratio, is still considered quite well, I feel. Okay, few tips I'll give you based on my experience. Do not discuss the price discounting initially, unless a customer walks in and asks you, so what is the price of this product? Do not discuss that initially. Just tell them, talk about the features. Do not manage finances of your customer. Now, many a times what we do, we look at his appearance and we decide, oh, this guy is not going to, he won't be able to afford the top of the line product. So why waste your time explaining that? Okay, I get many clients from government offices which are very close to my practice, where the government is government or even corporate people. They are the sum of part of the I don't know exactly how much they pay, but some part of the spectacle finances are paid by the company or the government. So they are willing to spend. I mean, then it comes at just by judging them, oh, they won't be able to spend. Don't do that. Make sure you provide customers with all the latest technologies, and then let them make a call. Even in your ordinary customers, many times you will give them a so average lens, and then next day they come and say, sir, my friend is wearing this type of a coating. Why didn't you suggest this type of coating? So it should not be that you didn't tell them about that coating, and tomorrow they're coming and blaming you. Just show them all the technologies and let them make a call based on their budget. Okay. Last point over here I've written, use the top-down approach sparingly. So what do I mean by top-down approach? Means if someone, suppose a new customer walks in for a progressive lens, don't start off with your customized progressive lens. Okay. Many times we'll say, when he hears the cost 35,000-40,000, he'll say, oh, sir, let me think, let me ask my family members. I mean, if you know the customer, if he's a repeat customer or his buying capacity, then yes, the top-down approach works very well. But if it's a new customer, follow the good, better, best approach. Okay, so what I mean by the good, better, best, again, same thing. Give 3 options. Show them a generic progressive lens, basic one, a wide viewing area progressive lens, and a customized progressive lens. Okay, so show them, tell them the advantages of all these designs, and then let them make a call according to their budget. And many a times I've seen in cases of bifocals, we are not applying this rule, good, better, best. I suggest you apply this rule even for bifocals, okay? Many a times customers walk in and they say they don't want a progressive lens because, that makes them feel giddy. So they said they just want a bifocal, which is, they're satisfied at wearing it for many years. So we just tell them about a generic bifocal costing like somewhere around 2000. We tell them, sir, go for the anti-reflection coat, blah, blah, blah. You just make a sale, okay? But what if you show them a branded bifocal lens also with a good multi-layer ARC coating? You can say, sir, this is a branded bifocal, it's Crizal, it has a Crizal coating, or it is a Japanese made lens. Whatever is your favorite brand, you can sell that. And believe me, I have seen the optics of these branded bifocals, it is far superior to the generic bifocals. The optical centers are spot on. If you see in the generic ones, sometimes the optical centers are missing in the segment. But if you see the branded bifocal, you have beautiful optical centers coming on the lensometer. And optically, definitely it's a superior lens. You have a better ARC coating also. So apply this rule everywhere, okay? Good, better. Apply it on bifocal, apply it on the single vision. And, don't just settle with a generic bifocal. Okay. The way you ask questions is also very important. I mean, avoid asking technical questions or boring questions like, do you need photochromatic lenses, like something like a machine? Do you need ARC coating? Do you need photochromatic lenses? Don't bore them and they'll think, no, I'm happy with what I have. You don't want to ask such questions. Recommended way of asking, do you want to protect your eyes from sun? Do you want to increase clarity of your lenses? Do you want to protect your child's eyes from harmful laptop Blu-rays in an online session? So when you ask such questions, it makes them more inquisitive. Oh, such a product is available. I like to know what is it. What is it like? So you can say, sir, why don't you buy the photochromatic for the first question? Second question, you can say, sir, why don't you wear a anti-reflection coat? Look, your eyes, the lens clarity will increase. Your eyes will look much clearer. Third one is, of course, your blue filter lens. Okay, so it should be like benefit-oriented questions and not like those technical questions where half of the customers are not going to understand what you're talking about. Moving forward. Okay. Another important aspect, arrange for a demo or trial. You can give a virtual trial on an iPad. Buy an iPad if you want. It costs like 35,000 and the software can be easily loaded by the company representatives. Now, for example, this is the iPad software. The images are not so clear. You can show a basic progressive lens because the basic one has a very wide peripheral astigmatic zones. You can show this to your customer. And then you can show him the top of the line progressive, which has very few peripheral astigmatic zones, like over here. Okay. So if it's a new customer, he didn't understand what we're talking about. You can tell him, sir, as you see, the distance portion is clear. As you move down, the near portion is getting clear. So first time fellow, this helps quite a lot. Apart from that, it creates a very good impression. You can also share some informative short videos if they're interested to know more. And photographs of actual lens dispense. Now, if you see this customer who has walked in, he was wearing a high index lens and he came to me, he said he wants another high index lens. And when I saw his lenses, they were thin, no doubt, but look at the amount of minification in his eyes, okay? The lenses are thin, no doubt. He was around 10 diopter myope with a 2-cylinder, something like that. And his eyes are looking small, so cosmetically is not looking good. So I told him, sir, why don't you upgrade to a high index aspheric surface, aspheric lens. And this photograph I showed him of a previous customer, and he looked at this photograph and he said, yes, wow. I mean, look at his eyes now. There's hardly any minification. And if you look at him now, he looks like a 4 diopter myope. There's hardly any spatial distortion, no minification, and the eyes are looking, the cosmetically is looking great. Okay. So if you can show such photographs to your customer, the upgradation process becomes really, very easy. And you can also show them few sample lenses, like for example, over here. This is a aspheric lens over here on a grid. And this is a normal spherical high index lens. So look at the amount of distortion at the periphery. Oh, this is a live demo you can give to your customer. And you can say, sir, if you're going to just buy a high index lens, you are going to end up with peripheral distortions. If he's going to be an architect who has a very large board, that is, the lines are going to look crooked. So ask him to upgrade to a aspheric lens to keep the distortions to minimum. Okay, always have the latest technology in your practice. It helps making a good sale, like upgrade the Optom Clinic to latest OptoRefs, LCD charts, 4-opters. I bet all of you must be having this. Other diagnostic instruments like your slit lamp, your tonometer if possible, facial measurement systems, what is facial measurement system is nothing but your eye partner, what SLR has, or Zeiss also has its own, even Nikon has its own. And these are must for dispensing personalized lenses, okay? Because these instruments, they do your frame measurements, your pantoscopic angle, wrap angle, reading distance, head-eye movement, everything, XYZ, everything it measures. And if you're going to plan to sell a personalized lens, then this instrument is a must, okay? A lot of you will argue, this instrument is so expensive, should I really buy? So alternative is you just buy an iPad and ask the company representative to load this software into an iPad, okay? So it still works fairly well, not as accurate as this, but it really who had walked in my store and they said, sir, do you have this instrument? If you're having this instrument, I would like to buy this progressive. Then I assured them, yes, sir, the instrument is right here. We'll do all your measurements, and I'll dispense you this lens. And so customers are smart. They read everything on the internet and they come. So better to have all these latest technologies in your practice. Okay, staff training, hire competent staff, and staff must be able to boost sales in your absence. Okay. So if you think the bulk of the upgradation process is only happening when you are at the counter, then you have to look at your staff. Okay, I mean, are they competent enough? Because you're not going to be at the counter 24/7, right? So if you look at your sales report end of the day and think, oh, all the major big orders are coming only when I was around, then you need to hire more competent staff. Okay, to have good profit in the future. Staff must be thorough with progressive design and specialty lenses. Unnecessary, don't push products that are not needed to drive your sales, like something like a -3 diopter myope does not need a 1.74 high index lens. Unnecessary, don't make the customer feel cheated. Incentives work very well, they keep the staff motivated. And this is another observation what I had, having a female sales staff is a value addition. Now with all respect to the men's staff, what I've seen generally is the elderly people, they connect well with these female staff. They're more comfortable sharing their problems and their needs with the female staff compared to a male staff. I mean, there are exceptions, of course. So, always make sure have a female staff if possible in your practice. Merchandising also a very important role. Have electronic media in your waiting room, make use of company brochures, and have a good, most of the time what I've seen, most of the stores are very biased towards frame merchandising. Okay, have frame merchandising, no, nothing wrong in that, but have a good ratio of spectacle lens merchandising also. Okay, so if you're going to show something like a wide progressive design or something like a good layer ARC coating, then the customer is going to look at those posters and that those inquiries are going to come in. So have a good ratio of frame and spectacle lens to increase your sales. Make use of this comparison charts. I bet all of you must be using this. This is the basic ARC coating, and this is the more advanced one which repels water and is sponge resistant, and this is the top of the line blue filter coating with all the properties. Now what I have observed, most of the time the sales staff, they give a good progressive design, okay, but they feel very shy to upgrade the coating. So the coating is very important. What I feel personally, that a good optically designed lens will satisfy a customer immediately. Okay, so if you give him a good wide angle progressive lens, he walks into your store, he collects his specs, he wears it, and he says, wow, the reading is really nice now, I'm satisfied. But a good quality coating will make them appreciate it after 6 months. Okay, so if you give them a basic ARC coating and 6 months down the line, they'll think, oh, there are a lot of scratches on my lens. I think he gave me inferior quality lens. He just overcharged me. Look at this. Look at the amount of scratches. And these customers will, if you tell them, so it was your mistake, you kept it in your pocket, they're not going to listen. Okay, that's human tendency. The blame is always on the optician. So don't feel shy in upgrading the coating. The multi-layer coatings are excellent. They last you long, and durability of the lens also increases, and so is your store reputation. Okay, these are some common questions that you nowadays, lately in the lockdown situation, these questions are bombarded on you on the optical counter. Blue cut, blue filter, what's the difference? Why blue filter lenses are so expensive? So don't just say, blue filter, something like a Preventia. So it is a branded lens. Don't use that word again, brand. Some people don't care about branded lenses. They just want value for money. Okay. So what is the basic difference? You need to go a bit technical. Like you can say the blue cut lenses cuts off only the entire range of visible blue spectrum, and that is actually bad for your eyes, because we need some blue light to enter the AI for its well-being. Now, a study was also published where the researchers have found out that depriving a child of the entire blue wavelength leads to progression in myopia. Okay, so this was that study which came, and so you have to be very cautious when you give a blue cut lens to a child, especially. Most of the children nowadays, due to the online classes, are demanding for this. I think the way forward, the correct way is to give a blue filter lens, and that is why it is expensive, because of something like a Preventia. It filters it takes out the harmful blue rays, and the essential blue rays passes through, which is essential for the child's well-being. So I've told my staff that even though these blue cut lenses are cheap, either give a normal ARC lens or just give them a blue filter, but avoid giving a blue cut lens for the children. Another common question what you get is, better I change my phone setting to blue filter. Why should I invest on the lens? Very common question. And most of the time the staff is like, sir, this is good, sir, you should try. So for this, the right answer is in this link provided over here at the bottom. This is another study done. It was done on iPhone. And what they said is, just by changing the blue filter setting on the phone, you're just reducing the glare, okay? The blue filtering effect is not happening. So if you want the blue filtering effect to happen, you need a blue filter lens, and there's no way out. You can't just fiddle around with your mobile settings and achieve that. So if you want, you can share this study with them and hopefully make a good sale again. Okay, comparison charts, you must be, all of us do this. The basic one has a very wide peripheral astigmatic zones, and the premium ones have a smaller astigmatic zones in the periphery, as you see over here. And there are certain conditions where it becomes absolutely necessary to upgrade the progressive design. Now, what are these conditions? Like customers who expect large viewing areas according to job requirements, someone like an architect who works on a large board. So it becomes absolutely necessary. People with higher additions, higher cylindrical errors, higher hypometropic errors. In such cases, the amount of peripheral distortion is at the max. So if you're going to sell a generic progressive lens, the chances of complaints are going to be quite high. So if you want to avoid those complaints, given the best progressive that fits his budget. Moving forward, what is the role of optometrist is also key. Now, many times you have seen in a practice, especially the big stores, the optometrist just writes the refraction values and takes the prescription and passes to the sales staff. Okay. But I think the optometrist also has a role to play over here. He needs to discuss with the customer their lifestyle, their occupation needs. He can recommend them certain products, like why they need a certain progressive design, or why they need a particular coating or a photochromatic lens, or even an anti-fatigue lens. Okay. And end of the conversation, we always make sure we write the recommended lens on a prescription. Like this person, like below the refraction, you can write photochromatic lens with a ARC coating or a progressive design, whatever be the case. So something like an eye doctor writing a medicine. So if the customer sees that and he says, oh, he's an eye specialist and he feels this is best for me. So half of the job of the sales staff is already done there. Okay. If your optometrist is also getting involved with the sales process, it's a win-win situation. Both the staff and optometrists can work in tandem over here. So involve your optometrist is the message basically. Okay, few other factors. This is not a lunch break. I mean, people are wondering over here, what is these logos doing here? It's eliminate the waiting period. Now, what a survey says over here, that an average Indian consumer can wait up to 8 minutes before they think of shopping elsewhere. Okay, so giants like Domino's and McDonald's have already realized this. Domino's used to give this pizza before 30 minutes. Even McDonald's for the burgers, they don't keep you waiting more than 10 minutes. So, so it is important you follow the same principle in your store. Many of times I've seen in the rush hours, especially on the weekends, if you keep the customers waiting, they just walk off. They say, I'll come tomorrow, I don't have time. They just walk off, okay? So important you have a good staff to customer ratio, have 2 refraction clinics if possible, and always try to keep this waiting period to the minimum. Okay, retaining your customers, another important aspect of practice. What the Harvard Business Review says, that improving customer retention by just 5% increases profits anywhere from 25% to a staggering 95%. Okay, this was even news to me when I read it. And so it's absolutely necessary you retain your customers. How you do it is totally up to you. You can always send them reminders on phone or have feedback calls with them. And repeat customers are also more likely to spend money more. Okay, so it becomes equally more important to retain them. Few add-on services you can have, like quick dispatch of orders, home delivery, courier service, this is very much needed in today's COVID times. People don't want to unnecessarily step out of their houses, so home delivery is a must. Couriering is not very expensive in India. I mean, anywhere in India you can courier in as less as 100 rupees. Reminders for annual checkup, free servicing of specs, acknowledge them for referrals, and complaints troubleshooting must be handled with care. Okay, so this last point in particular separates the average shop with a good shop. Okay, suppose you get a coating complaint of one of your customers, don't just give them the toll-free number. So this is the company toll-free number, why don't you call them up and address your complaint? So don't do that, because they have come with some faith in your store. So instead, collect the specs, say, sir, we'll speak to the company on your behalf and we'll get back to you in 2-3 days. And if it falls within the warranty period, just give them a free replacement also, if that works well. Okay, so try to handle complaints more from your side than the customer side. And these are few complaints which I had in my practice, and there was some learning curve for me also. I hope you're not short on time. No, we are not. It's about to end now. I'll just share a few case studies. This was a 50-year-old diamond merchant. He had 2 offices, one in Belgium and one in Mumbai. And he had bought this premium photochromatic lenses, branded photochromatic lenses. He had one set in Belgium that he got from Belgium itself. He used to keep it there only. And one set he had bought from me. It was a transition lens, Signature 7 it was. It was around 2 years back he had come to me. And after using my specs in Mumbai, what he complained to me was that the Belgium specs, the photochromatic lenses of Belgium, were turning darker more faster compared to the progressive lenses, compared to the photochromatic lenses what I've sold him over here in Mumbai in my store. So he came to me, he said, sir, have you sold me a genuine product, or is it some counterfeit product? So here the reputation of my store was at stake. And I heard this conversation between my staff and this fellow over here. He's not the fellow, I mean, just speak is just for representation. And I came down, and luckily I remembered my dispensing optic lectures from my bachelor's days. And I told him, sir, since you live in Belgium, it has a cold weather, and photochromatic lenses turn darker faster in cold weather. I also showed him an article on my phone which backed my claims. Again, I told him, sir, you have a authenticity card, and that itself is a proof. And if you want, I'll connect you to the company person, have a direct chat with him. So after reading all these articles and this explanation and all, he was somewhat satisfied. And this was some learning curve for us also, because we never had this complaint before. So even for the staff, found it quite beneficial over here. Quickly, of case number 2. I have a series of cases, but let's stick to 2 now only as of now. This was a 29-year-old guy. He was about to get married, so he wanted to look his best. He was a high myope. He didn't want to wear contact lenses because he said it's a hassle wearing contact lenses, so we didn't push him. And we sold him a 1.67 high index lens, aspheric surface, and the staff guy gave him a standard ARC coating, and that's it. He went off. And a few days later, we just asked him as a feedback call. We called him, the staff member called him, and he said, sir, how are your specs? I hope they are serving you well. And he said he's a bit disappointed. So we asked him why, what's the case like? So he said he looked at his wedding photographs, and there are a lot of reflections on his spectacles. He said, you sold me as an anti-reflection lens, and how come there are a lot of reflections on my lenses? So I'm a bit disappointed. So then I took the call. I told him, sir, if you're disappointed, just come with your wedding photographs. Let me have a look. If there's something fault with your coating, I'll have it replaced for you. So one fine day he comes in, he shows me his wedding photographs, and the reflections, I will not say they were there. They were actually there, but they're bothersome. I'll not say they were too much, but they were still there. And I agreed to that point that he said that the reflections were there. And I told him, sir, why don't you just leave your specs here? We'll have a discussion with the company. I'll get back to you. He said, fine. And I showed it to the company. Company people evaluated. They said the coating is perfect. So then I called the optom of the company. I said, let's do some brainstorming. I mean, because the reflections are seen, there's no doubt about it. And what we found out the reason was the aspheric surface. Now, when the surface becomes aspheric, it becomes very flat. Okay. So flat surface it acts like a mirror. Okay. So a lot of reflections happen. And here the standard ARC coating doesn't work much. Okay. So when you're giving an aspheric lens, just remember, give the top of the line ARC coating, a multi-layer ARC coating. Okay. Don't settle with the standard ARC coating, because such complaints are again bound to come in. Now, many companies like Nikon, they have removed the standard coating itself from the price list. Okay. They only sell these aspheric lenses with a premium coating, because they must have realized this problem somewhere down the line. And that is why they have removed the standard quoting. But by some mistake, I don't know what the sales guy did. I don't know why he did a standard, why he sold a standard ARC quoting when the difference between the premium quoting and the standard were just 800 rupees. So again, it was a learning curve for us, and hopefully we'll learn from it. We have learned from it. What hopefully we have learned from it, definitely. And end of the day, it comes to this. I still prefer buying online, so there's no reason to get so agitated. What studies have found is why customers do online purchase, because home delivery, time saving, lower pricing, more product options, review from other shoppers. This was a study done by Sunita et al. Over here. I put up the link, and these were the top reasons. And if you can address these problems to some extent, you will give a good fight to the online platforms like home delivery, time saving, recruit a delivery boy, which I've already mentioned, have more product options. It becomes very difficult for a frame point of view, but for spectacle lenses, very much possible. You can have all the prices of all the companies, and if a customer defines a particular brand, you can always get it delivered. Reviews from other shoppers, always give a feedback call. If they're happy with the product, ask them to rate you on Google, Facebook, Just Dial, whatever be your channel. And even if you look, if you search a store on Google Map, first thing pops out are the ratings. So make sure you have healthy ratings for your store. And coming to this lower pricing, I'll say don't get into a price war with these online platform companies, because end of the day they're going to win. They are cash rich, they are funded by corporates, and the way forward is don't try to sell cheap products. Justify, like I said, justify the price of your frame, justify the price of your product. Explain to them why this particular lens or why this particular coating is more expensive than this cheap online available product. And if you can justify, you will probably end up making a good sale. So that's about it, everyone. I must thank Mrs. Lakshmi Shinde and Mr. Nilesh Thite for giving me inputs to better my presentation. And also Team OCI, Essilor India, also the panelists for patiently listening to my talk. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome, Pancham. I think that was a great talk. I myself learned quite a few new things. Thank you so much, man.
Welcome, Nilesh.
A couple of things I just wanted to mention from the talk. One is I really love the example of a person who was driving and, transition lenses. Like, if you just tell them it will take 1 or 2 minutes for darkening and fading, they may not understand the impact or the relevance. But if you say that, inside you're inside the car, and even while driving, you will get the necessary amount of darkness, and it will help you driving during the daytime, and that will enhance your lifestyle. That they will understand better. Other one I liked was no prejudging, because I think we tend to prejudge कि इसको इसकी जरूरत ही नहीं होगी. ये हमारे ही दिमाग में होता है काफी बार. So I think it is important for us to at least let the people know what good options we have. Another thing I liked was good, better, best. 3 different categories of products. And finally, role of optometrists. I think that is important. Many times we are hesitant in recommending. While we conducted a study, and we also found out that actually customers are waiting for us to recommend the right things. So they want us to recommend, but somehow we hesitate in recommending. So I think that came across nicely out of your presentation. Just एक चीज थी जिससे थोड़ा सा मेरा दिल टूट गया, because you said we need to have a good female staff. Male are not good enough already. हमें complex है. थोड़ा सा बढ़ा दिया तूने, but ठीक है, we'll live with that, right? So on that note, I think it's a great time to also invite Snehal and Anant Lakshmi. We'll get to hear a little bit from them also. Ananta, can you just unmute yourself and come on video? Oh, wonderful. So Snehal, I think before I move across to Ananta, you want to add something, your own experience? Do you agree to what Pancham was saying, more or less?
Yeah. Thank you, Pancham. That was really power-packed. So much of information in such a short time. Good refresher. And I think it's a very, very relevant topic and a perfect start for the series of Knowledge Plus webinars lined up. And I would like to reiterate that, it's getting more and more challenging in the optical retail. Why? One of the significant reasons is that the consumer habit is moving more and more, especially in the last few years, to what we call as a self-operative mode, a self-indulgent, a self-interactive sales process, thanks to their online buying patterns. All of us, I mean, we have also experienced the same. And, a lot of things is driven by AI enforced on us. So the consumer habits are involving, also they involve compiling knowledge and info online before zeroing on few products. In other words, they got habituated, to making a self decision. They feel satisfied that they have done their due diligence before they come to the store or they make a purchase. This has sometimes made our job easier, but sometimes it makes it a lot tougher because they know much more than you know sometimes. Okay, so hence it's very important that we need to be spot on with effective communication, in which I think today's topic is a very key aspect, that is communicating product benefit. This needs to be really sharpened to meet the demands of the new age shopper. Okay, and I think Optom Kulkarni has given excellent insight into this. Thank you.
Awesome. Snell, I'll come back to that if there is any specific question. Just before I ask Ananta, there is one comment from Kumaranji. He says that, ARC reduces around 97% of the reflections, while a good hard multi-coat goes almost 99.9%. So thanks for that comment, Kumaranji. Ananta, coming to you from the industry side, what are your observations in terms of, patient communication, or what do we need to do? Anything from your side? Of course, you meet so many practitioners, you might have picked something from them.
Yeah, so basically, I would say communication is just not about the interaction that you have with the customer. The communication, especially on the product value. So the main thing which we need to understand is you need to sell value and not the price. So how does the customer actually feel the value of the practice is basically right from the start when he enters the store till rightly said by Pancham, handling any problems and all this. So that's where the value comes in. So he also rightly talked about the practice importance. So the practice importance along with the product becomes very, very unique only when the experience is given to him. So communication is also in terms of the experience he gets from the practitioner. So it has to start right from the clinic. I like the way he's talked about Optom recommendation. And then also in terms of building the sales call. That is one thing which I wanted to talk about. And the second important thing is also in terms of the more you know about your customers. So today what is happening is if a customer enters a store and he asks, I'm just giving an example. He says, okay, I'm wearing a bifocal, give me a pair of glasses. You need to ask them, what are the what do they like about the spectacle lenses, what they don't like about the spectacle lenses, what are their expectations, So sometimes what happens is ours is a very unique industry, So unlike an industry which sells mobiles or cars wherein you have a try-on, But in our industry, we already have the confidence of our patients and customers because they build in, they take in our products based on our recommendation, what we give. Because they don't have a chance to try in. Only when they get their product, they know what the actual benefit of the product. So the entire responsibility lies on us as to how confident we are in and genuine we are when we recommend all these things to our customer. So the basic idea is the more you know about your customer, you have more opportunities. The more opportunities you have, you will have more solutions to give to their customer. So basically, you need to dwell on these three things like features, advantage, and benefits of the products or the solutions you're going to give. Features is basically the technology, like how Pancham rightly said. Not many people will understand these jargons. So sometimes that is nice. It's an icing on the cake. It is nice, but what is very needed for the customer is the advantage and the benefit. What does this technology do to me, and why should I buy it? Okay, this technology does these things, but why should I buy it? You know me now. You've asked me a lot of questions. You know me now. Tell me how this is going to help me in getting this product. I think if we answer these three questions, in a right way, and have a good conversation, I would say communication is more of a third-party thing. I would say have a good conversation. But only when you have a good conversation with your customer, you both are at the same wavelength, and that is when what you say and what he needs is going to synchronize. So I would say have a good conversation with your customer, crisp and short, because that is very important, and effective. I think that is the thing which I would take.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Anand. And I just, before Lakshmi speaks, just one quick line is, many people feel that good communication means meaty bate, or just, keep talking. I don't think that's the thing. I think a lot of good communication is actually your listening skills, how well you listen, how well you understand, and then asking the right questions and getting the right information. That's a base of proper communication. Yeah, Lakshmi, go on.
Yeah, perfectly said. There was just an example. Anyway, I'll share that later. The reason why I raised my hand, I think Snehal and me have had a few discussions regarding this. As optoms, I feel, just limited only to the examination room
Right.
does not complete your job. I feel you also need to spend some time over the counter. That's when you understand patient behavior, patient feedback, and the needs also better. So I just wanted to ask Snehal, how do you train your optoms, Snehal, in terms of both balancing clinic as well as that, and do they recommend the products during the once they finish their eye exam?
Yeah. So, a couple of years back, we were also very adamant and stubborn that, the optometrist has to be confined to the clinic. But as you all know, last couple of years, things have changed rapidly, and optoms have to multitask. And in fact, I think they right now play a very, very crucial role in driving the business because they offer the right balance in knowledge as well as, let's accept it, the finesse also. Definitely the optom, what an optom can offer finesse, it may not be to that extent with the sales staff, and they're not to be blamed. Obviously a better education is helping the optoms. So we have seen a drastic difference happening. I think it's about almost 8-9 years since we started doing this, where they play a vital role, and it has impacted a lot. Initially we had resistance from sales staff because they thought, oh, hamara incentive chala jayega. We said, see, it's a team effort. We'll ensure that whatever you're not going to lose out. And then the whole perception change, and then it's a team effort all the way, and it brings a huge value to the floor, huge value, no doubt about it.
So the incident that I was saying is similar to what Pancham was saying in terms of coating. When they come back, they say, no, I handle the lens very well. And when you recommend them to upgrade the coating. So an example was something that just happened yesterday. So that's why it's fresh in my mind. And the way it went on was, so when the sales staff was explaining about a better coating, she said, no. But whereas the sun, like the old glasses were really scratched. So the salesperson said, ma'am, maybe you put it in your pocket or something. She said, no, I do take care. And the son was like saying, no, she definitely does whatever you were saying. She keeps her, spectacles ulta, but she was still arguing. So the salesperson didn't say anything. And finally, when we were going to, during the period of discussion and everything, what she did was promptly she took the glasses. So this is observation skills, So communication is not just, as Nilesh said, not just talking. You have to be very, very attentive throughout the period when the customer is there. So she just put it in a bag as a usual thing that she was used to. So immediately the person said, ma'am, this is the exact reason why I was recommending you, because like this, how you put it, maybe, no, it's just a few times. So he said, even if it is a few times, it's, bound to get scratched. So that's the reason why your glasses. And then he kind of said, if you want this, I'm happy to give you this, but then you'll be coming back to me, once in 6 months with the same problem. If you don't want that to happen, then we can upgrade your coating. So I get, it's very important that they also observe when they are, speaking.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the moral of the story is whenever the patient is coming with complaints, we should ask them to come with their children, because the children will tell the truth.
So the son was very adamant. He says, no, she never does it. And both of them kept arguing. It was such a very odd this thing for the salesperson. Because the son was saying, no, you're absolutely right. She keeps her glasses upside down. She doesn't take care. She leaves it all over the place and all of that.
घर जाके उसका उस रात का खाना. Anyway, so I'm just going to ask you probably just one question to both Snehal and Pancham. Before that, just a quick announcement, guys. We'll post the link for the assessment on the chat as well as on Facebook. So, just complete the assessment so that you get your certificate. And just a generic question to both of you, actually. How do you decide in terms of, what to recommend to whom? Because on one hand, we only say that we can't prejudge too much. So are there any, pointers that help you, or is it just the initial probing? How do you decide that?
Oh, I hope we had a perfect formula for this. In fact, this is one of the biggest challenges, I think, for all of us. undoubtedly. And, it's a constantly evolving. And we sometimes the best of the salespeople goof up. Okay, so I think it's a lot of continuous learning and observation, as Lakshmi said. And fortunately for all of us, majority of us independent opticians have a good backlog of loyal customers. So the earlier buying pattern helps us a lot. Okay, so that is a good starting point. And based on that, it gets easier for us to upgrade, So one of the things I always tell my staff, that we get an opportunity, all of us get an opportunity probably on an average once in 18 months to 2 years when the consumer comes back. So it's a huge opportunity lost, if we do not convert this 1.5 year period when the consumer is coming back in upgrading the customer to a better product, or better, revenue earning product or whatever it is. So this is where the, small shift in the dispensing and the sales pattern, and by effective product communication, this can definitely lead to an easier upgrade.
Thanks, Nehal. Anything you want to add, Pancham, to this?
I think I agree with Snehal bhai. And the locality where my practice is, the population is somewhat going to be minus plus 5-10%. Okay, it's not going to be booming, or people are not going to leave their houses, right? So the only way to boost your sales is probably product upgradation. That's the only right way going forward. Because I think my area is mostly saturated. All new buildings have already come up. There's not going to be much of potential population growth. So it becomes very important, to upgrade your customers. And the new customer, like I said in my presentation, becomes a big challenge. Existing customer, the base price. So it becomes slightly easier, I'll say, to upgrade them. But like I said, just follow the good, better, best approach. Like, for example, a particular brand has 10 types of progressive lenses. So it becomes very confusing for the first time where we say, sir, what is this? And what is the difference between this? So I avoid that. I have my own price list. I just show them the good product, better product, and the best product. Like if you take a particular XYZ brand, take SLR for example. I think they have around 8 types of Verilux. So if you're going to show 8 type of Verilux to your customer, they're like, oh, sir, what is the best? And you're going to confuse them. Again, if you upgrade the coating, one product jumps onto another. Okay. So just based on our experience, like a comfort, Verilux is excellent. So that is where your mid or your physio is good. So put that as your mid, something like low, like entry level Verilux, and top of the line, your customized Verilux, So make sure I tell all products to them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just want to add a point to that. So it's very important. We tell our sales staff also that whatever be the individual's capacity, one thing is very common as a human psychology is that everybody aspires to go in for a better product, whether be it cars or mobiles or clothes or everything. At each one's level, there is always an aspiration that I want to buy a better product. So that is what we need to play an advantage. So mobiles is a classic example that you find people are ready to spend 30, 40, 50,000, but when they come to buy a specs, they will grumble if they have to shell out 5,000 rupees. So, it is an aspiration which we need to tap in the consumer, and communicating effectively will definitely help you convert quite often.
Thanks, Neil. Lakshmi, you wanted to say something?
Thank you. Yeah, it was, I don't know whether you can hear me well. Kunda ma'am was very, excited about the online slide, that online customer slide that Pancham presented. So I think that was, very good in terms of your perspective, Pancham. So thank you for that.
Can I add something to that? Why people come to us? Because we did a study 2-3 years ago to understand why people still come to us, even if everything is available online. And the findings were, I think one of the important ones was they wanted to get an eye test before buying any eye product. That was one. Secondly, the touch and feel. They wanted to feel the product before ordering it, before buying it. They wanted to feel it. And third is the personal interaction, the attention that you get. So these were the top 3 things why people still come back to us. So I think as practitioners, we still have that power to engage with our patients and our customers, and they'll still keep coming back to us, right? So I think, Lakshmi, it was quite interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Pancham, excellent presentation. Thank you so much, Snehal, for your inputs, and Anant Lakshmi for your inputs too. Maybe, Lakshmi, this is the time you can post your link for the assessment.
Yeah, Paula has already posted. And
Okay.
I've posted that on Facebook also for our Facebook listeners so that they can, complete the survey and send it. And thanks to you, Pancham. Everybody is being appreciative of the presentation. I think it was
I must thank OCI first for giving me an opportunity to be the first presenter. So I must thank Team OCI.
I think, in 40 minutes to encompass everything is very difficult, and I think you did a absolutely fantastic job on that. And thanks, Nehal. We all know how busy you are. So thanks for giving your time and valuable inputs. And I'd like to say that the next session of Knowledge Plus is going to be on July 2nd, again a Friday, again from 3 to 4. And that topic is going to be equally interesting. It is style versus science. So in terms of, spectacle style versus the science of, optometry and dispensing and all of that. So how do we marry both together? Or what are the things that we have to keep in mind to balance everything and stuff like that. So we'll keep you posted, but the next session I just wanted to inform is on July 2nd.
So it's like beauty with brains. Yeah?
Thank you, Nilesh.
Beauty with brains.
Beauty with brains, yes. That's a good way of putting it. Thanks, Nilesh. Thank you so much.
Bye everyone. Take care.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everybody. Get vaccinated, wear your
Thank you.
mask, stay safe.
Bye.
Sure.